So Brianne is from Georgia, and she really exemplifies what we've talked about here today because she reached out to me and said, Judy, I would like to present at a convention. Is there an opportunity for that? And right when I saw that she was a technician, I responded because we really like to have technicians present. We have a lot of pharmacists who present, but we like to have technicians to present too. And so Brianne is really going to tell you more about her background and where she's at now, so please help me in welcoming Brianne.
Hello, hello. Y'all have all seen me. I am right there, and I probably asked most of the questions, so it's me. I would like to say thank you, Judy, so much. If y'all think I talk a lot from there, can you imagine how many emails I have sent her, how many questions? So I appreciate her for just being responsive. So thank you to Judy for having me. Also, my husband who's here. He's been my friend since I was 7 years old, so he tags along. Been around for a while. Okay, I am going to start with an icebreaker. We've been sitting here, and I don't want y'all to move too much because I know it's hot, and too much movement gonna have too much sweating. So we'll just stay seated, and I'll have everybody raise their hand as we go. As we know, when you walk in the pharmacy, there's some sense of seniority. So there's a respect for who's been there the longest, and then there's some acceptance and some excitability for who's just coming in. So I would like to know who's our vet tech. Not vet tech, not like Roxanne, no. Yeah, I know. So who is our veteran technician? If you've been a technician for 25 years, put your hand up. Okay. 27 years. 28 years? 30 years? 32 years?
Oh, you've been in the pharmacy 42.
42.
36.
36 or 42 years. Oh my God, 36. Y'all.
And I'm only 49, so.
Don't do the math. Don't do the math.
Yeah.
So I feel, huh?
40 years total.
40 years. Okay. I'm a little bit younger than that, but when I tell y'all, like, that is wild to me because what I've seen since I've been a technician and what you guys have probably seen is phenomenal, because even from now to when I started, so much has changed. I remember you had to have a hard copy. And then I talked to technicians and pharmacists who said, oh, we used to only be able to type them on typewriters. I'm like, what? Yeah. How? Like a typewriter, that would take forever. I mean, but the volume probably wasn't as high. So awesome. Okay, who just became a tech? 3 years or less? 3 years, okay. 2 years or less? 1 year, is this your first year?
No, I was a year back in April.
Well, congratulations. Welcome. I would like to know from each of you, Ms. Rhonda, I do have a question. When you first started as a technician, was it accidental, or was this something that somebody told you should do, or how did that?
I just started as a cashier at first,
Mm-hmm.
and then just worked into it. And at that time, I was the only other person besides the pharmacist that was there.
Was there? Oh, and I'm sure you have seen a ton.
Oh yes.
You have seen a lot. Yes,
We sold insulin for $7.99, and birth control is $7.29 a month. So, yeah.
Okay, we have come a long way. That I don't know if I expected that, but that's insane. So I mean, I'm sure you've also trained so many technicians, and you have like the well of knowledge. All of you who've been.
I'm one of them. She trained.
She trained you, and I'm sure you feel confident in what you know because of somebody like her, huh? So that is awesome. When you first got into it.
No, it was like, I don't say by accident, but I saw it on Facebook.
Really?
And I got into it, and I did an accelerated program that was an online only, a month. And then I thought, kind of like you said, when I first got into it and I was getting ready to graduate, I thought I wouldn't be a pharmacist, but now that I've been in it, no.
No.
I'm fine where I'm at.
Yes. Yeah. I wanted to go to pharmacy school because I was like, I could do this. I had a pharmacist who is a big mentor of mine who is still very, very close to me. I actually used to keep her kids, and she was like, you should be my technician. I was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And she set me up. It was a setup. She brought me in and didn't have anybody to train me for their night shift, so I had like 1 hour of overlap with the senior tech, and I was at Walgreens in the drive-thru. I remember crying like, I don't know what I'm doing. And the pharmacy manager was like, did they not teach you how to type? I was like, no, I don't. I'm one finger at a time typing the whole words, no sit codes. It was a while. It took me a minute. So I really just got thrown into the wolves, and since then, I was like, if I can do this, I can do anything. So I'm going to try and clearly call Judy and be like, excuse me, can I talk at your conference? I feel like a technician can do anything. There's so many different roles. So welcome to the wonderful world of being a pharmacy technician. Okay, thank you guys for doing that. All right, I am speaking about patient assistance programs. As we all know, the cost of medication, like Demetria said, we are not into this role because of the pay. We are really into this because we really care for the people that are coming to get their medications, whether we're making it for them in the inpatient pharmacy or med to bed or commercial pharmacy or mail order pharmacy. We're doing this because there is a person on the other side of that who needs what we're doing. And we have to kind of keep it regulated that we don't get frustrated with the cost of medication, because when you talk to somebody on the phone and they're trying to tell you they don't have the money for their medication or food, how do we feel, especially when we care that much? You know, I take this very, very seriously. This is where I get my fulfillment. This is where I feel like God has graced me to be. I really love this field, and it was all on accident. I thought this was just going to be a next step to something different, but it has opened up so widely, okay? All right, patient assistance programs. Let's see. All right, let me tell you, I have had a patient, this is probably the worst case scenario I've ever dealt with. He needed a medication that was a higher tier. I won't name any medications right now, but he needed a higher tier medication. This was a Medicare patient, high tier medication. I was helping him with a patient assistance program. So I had found out that he was eligible. I was in the process of sending him the paperwork that was necessary, and I had been following up to see where we were in that process, right? It broke my heart. I called him, and it was a delay. So I'm wondering, okay, so what's going on? We'll call him Mr. Smith. What's going on, Mr. Smith? And he said, he's about 66 at the time, let's say 68. I called him, and he said, I have to wait for my wife because I can't read. And it made me realize that the gap is larger than we really know. So we can't get caught up in the technology of, oh, you can just apply online. Oh, I'll send you this text message. Or even I'll send it to you in the mail. You fill it out and send it back. There's a gap in where some people just don't have the literacy for it. But he still needs his medication, and he still can't afford it. So we have to bridge the gap somewhere, right? Okay. Another patient, commercial insurance. This is a patient, young, has a few kids, recently diagnosed out of the blue with a condition that requires her to be on a biologic, right? If anybody knows, even with insurance, a biologic is going to cost you sometimes several $100s when you need it, right? All right. So what do? Do you choose not to take it? Do you get that option? Do you get to choose survival or comfort or food? You need some help, right? I will go into my introduction by saying I am a product of a copay assistance card. I'm patient B. I needed the extra help, and because I was a technician, I knew that I could get onto a patient assistance program, but for the patients who have commercial insurance, they don't know that. They know that this is what my doctor said I needed. They've called me to set up the appointment, but nobody is telling me that when I get there or before I get there, I have to pay $600 to get this medication that they said that I need, right? Right. So this is important to me, and this is what I do every single day. Okay. All right. Again, I'm Brianne. Y'all know that. I have 3 kids. They're amazing. My last 2 are twins. They're 7, so y'all can imagine how busy we are. We are busy. My oldest is about to be a senior, and we just have had a really busy life. And when I had my oldest, I was 16. I started pharmacy at 18, and I don't think I knew that this would get us where we were. And when I say us, like the places I've been in and even the pay has been enough to sustain me. So I thank God for that. But it has been a journey. It has been a journey. And thank God healthcare is something that is staying. No matter what else is leaving, healthcare is staying. Healthcare is staying, okay? All right. If you have any questions in between, I'm not formal. If you hadn't noticed, I didn't always raise my hand, so you don't even have to raise your hand at this point. Just ask. All right, objectives. We're going to summarize encouraging and supportive phrases when asking patients if they need help paying for medication. As we know, everybody's just not going to come out and tell you that they need help, or they're not going to just talk about their money freely. It's a generational thing, and it's just nobody wants to do that, and especially on a regular basis. It kind of just reminds them sometimes that they may not have enough, so that's not an easy part. Recall eligibility requirements for patient assistance programs. It would be nice if you could just call somebody and say, hey, I need some help. But no, we do have eligibility requirements for most and a lot of these programs. And to add to that, the eligibility and accessibility to these programs could literally change from the time that I'm done with this speech. So you could call and be like, earlier you had the funds. Later, nope, we no longer have the funds, or the medication's on back order. I'm sure you all heard that. Great. Lastly, determine the best course of action based on the patient's eligibility. It's not going to look the same. It's not going to be the same process for everybody. Okay. All right. What is patient assistance? Any thoughts? Throw it at me. What's patient assistance? What's a patient assistance program? Any ideas so far?
Paying for medication.
Helping them pay for their medications? Okay. Copay cards. Yep. That's what we use most pharmacies. Anything else? Grants. Yep. When do you usually see a grant?
We see it all the time.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's what y'all do?
We work in specialty.
Yes. Okay. So grants, copay assistance cards, grants. Great. They also have foundations like Lilly Cares, or Ozempic has Novo Nordisk. There's a foundation there. There's BI Cares. There's Merck. And these are just common diabetes, or even Farxiga has AstraZeneca. So just some common ones that I've seen lately. Okay, how to apply. We have to take everybody into consideration. The person who does know how to do everything on their phone, and the person who's in the rural area and does not have internet. We have to assume, you have to assume. It's like when we put the directions on the bottle. You have to assume everybody, or this is what my pharmacist used to tell me, assume they don't know that it's by mouth. What if they stick it in, you already know. So you have to be very specific. You have to be specific, and you can't assume everybody does have the same knowledge we do. We've been in the game for a while, so that's how they come about. So we have self-service or mail. So patients can do it by themselves. Yes, it is a process to it. A lot of people are competent. They can do that. It does take some time. People do have the time and the mental space. I always say, when somebody says they don't have the time to do something, it may not be physical time. It may just be mental space for it. It can be frustrating. You can go straight to the website. There are places where you can, as a patient, go straight to the website. There are some times where there's some backdoor methods, like RX Lightning, where the provider does go through a backdoor method and you apply in the backdoor you apply for that patient. You can apply in your pharmacy. You can have a pharmacy technician help you out. I used to do it all the time in the drive-thru. Help somebody get a copay assistance card on my phone while they're in the drive-thru because they're stuck between a rock and a hard place. I don't want you to leave without your medicine. We also just ordered this for you. I need you to take this home with you, okay? My inventory next week is going to be too high. You have to take this home, and somebody has to pay for it. And then your insurance company, sometimes they will call and offer. I work for a healthcare plan now, and we do call and say, we noticed that you have filled a high-cost medication. Let's see what we can do to help. We need you to stay on this medication, and not, for me, I'll be honest, it's not to make sure they always meet their KPIs or things like that. It's because I really care about the patients being on the medications that they need. Metformin's not good, not the best for everybody. If the young lady before even said it, metformin causes some terrible stomach issues. So if they've been able to be moved to they necessary for Farxiga or Jardiance or something like that, why wouldn't we try and see what we can do, how we can get to them paying for it, and sustainability. We want medication adherence, but we want sustainability. So what happens when a patient either falls into the gap or they've reached their initial coverage? What happens? They were paying $47. They figured out how to pay for that. Now the next month they get it is $600. Oh no, that's okay, I'm not taking that anymore. And then their body completely reacts to no longer taking it. Now what? So if we're proactive in, okay, you have 3 or 4 more months before you hit your gap, you're paying $47. Now, let's start this process to see if we can get that approval through that foundation to start getting mailed directly to you. And then that'll even help with any manufacturer back orders or any issues that way, because it's coming directly from the manufacturer. Hey.
Do you know, with the insurance companies, would that be more through their MTMs?
I can't speak for every insurance company. I think everybody does their department differently. I know MTMs can offer to assist. I don't know if it's a regular situation. That is something that I do know patients who can call their insurance company and say, hey, do you know of anything like this? But what I have learned working where I am is that if you call the insurance company, they usually don't know. They're going to get you to the pharmacy team, and usually a technician like me would help. All right. Then we have community outreach. I kind of just bunched it together, which maybe I'm not respecting the position, so I apologize. But even care coordinators, patient coordinators, Roxanne, me and her had a conversation, and you said a ton, where the med to bed, then she's talking to her care coordinator is you're working with the manufacturer, she has direct lines. Okay, that might be a good shameless plug. Everybody get Roxanne number. She has, she does, she gave me a lot of information.
Very willing set of manufacturer reps.
That will help with payment, and that's a big deal. It seems so small in the big world, but when you're trying to get a patient who needs to go home on a medication to stay on, if they have a plan for payment, they will stay on the medication, right? Okay. Next, we have community foundations. There are people who do come from the certain foundations that will call. It might be marketing, but that's just, I don't exactly know. I'm not here. I don't represent anybody. So it could be a marketing thing, but it actually does help. If somebody from the foundation calls a patient and says, hey, I see you're taking this medication. We want to offer you this. It's actually a help. So a win is a win. Okay, I'll take the win. Your provider's office, I'm sure we've all have heard. Provider's offices, they'll give you here's a 30-day free. But we need to know what's going to happen, like Roxanne said, past that 30 days. So what's the plan after that? I think that's just getting you in the door with the certain manufacturers and the foundations, but there is usually a continued process that patients can stay on, okay? All right, and then we have online portals. I did mention this before, like RX Lightning, you can use an online portal that does help you apply in kind of as a stand-in for the patient. A prescription may be needed. There are things that are necessary for it, but this is an option. There are options to do that. All right, eligibility. How much fun? You need your medicine. You're not feeling good. You can't pay for it. Before we go forward, let me first ask you a question. I have to be honest, I don't necessarily like asking the eligibility questions, and it's because I care so much about the patients, and I feel like everybody should have what they need, but I digress. We do have to ask, especially if we want to maintain longevity. If we want them to be able to stay on these things, we want to make sure we ask the right questions, okay? And to make sure that they're eligible going forward. So say they get it for the foundation approval for a year, but to make sure they're eligible the next year, we want to make sure we ask the right questions. So income. Income is a big one. To ask somebody about their income, I do not recommend you just introducing yourself and being like, hey, how much money do you make? Yeah, most generations are going to be like, excuse me? So yes, they trust us to most extent until you start talking about their money. Nobody wants you nobody wants you to speak about their pockets. But if we're explaining to patients that we're trying to help you do this, These are our credentials. This is what we looked into. This is the knowledge that we have. Starting to ask them about the most important to even just see what they're eligible for. There is a way to do that, but this is the information that we have to have, the eligibility information, okay? All right, if it's commercial insurance or Medicaid or Medicare, they are different eligibilities. Most coupon cards you cannot use connected with Medicaid or Medicare. I'm sure y'all have all seen that. And they walk in with a card from their doctor, and all you can say is, I am so sorry, that is not correct information. I will say, to take it a step farther, if you have the time, I know in retail, I give you all very, very much grace, because I understand you can't always do that. But if you have a moment to say, this foundation or this particular copay assistance company or manufacturer may not work with your Medicaid or Medicare, but let's see if they have any grants towards it. You can call, you can ask them if they aren't able to do that, if they have a family member to call, but if you can take that extra step, at least we can keep the patients, try and keep them on the medications that they do need, okay? All right, out-of-pocket spending requirements. We will get to that. Everybody knows Eliquis. We've talked about this. I talked about this with Roxanne. I just talked about it with Leslie. It's expensive. It doesn't work like Coumadin or warfarin. It doesn't, so this is different. Patients usually need Eliquis. Is it always affordable? No. Can they get it for sometimes the first 30 days? Sure. Can they get some type of help at the beginning? Absolutely. Can they take it in the hospital? Sure, they can do all those things. But what happens when they get out? What happens when they need to pick it up and the first prescription is $900? Then what? We have to have a plan. We want to try and be proactive. All right, VA benefits or TRICARE. Some, but most foundations and copay assistance cards, just like Medicaid and Medicare, do not. You can't attach the two together. And then we have low-income subsidy. If you qualify for low-income subsidy, you usually can't get certain foundations. If you understand the demographic that is needed or needs a lot of these high-cost medications, from the research I've done, is the ones that are eligible for low-income subsidy or Medicare or Medicaid, but don't have enough money to, it's a middle ground. They have too much money for one thing, not enough money for something else. So they're stuck in the middle, right? Okay. And lastly, diagnosis. Of course, certain foundations, copay assistance cards, certain manufacturers require certain diagnosis, okay? So as we know, Ozempic is used for two different things, right? As we can see that we're having a national shortage on our GLP-1s, but we have people who actually need them for diabetes certain diagnoses do get you in the door for copay assistance and foundation. All right. Any questions thus far? Okay. All right, common drugs or drug classifications with patient assistance programs. I've mentioned Eliquis, we got Farxiga, Jardiance, Brilinta, Xarelto, Strattera, Entresto. Deficit, okay. See, look, I ain't been here long enough, clearly. Expensive antibiotic, okay.
Get a coupon for Lantus now too.
Lantus? I think I knew that. Levemir as well. There's some others. Brio.
To add in the logs, they also have like a $100 coupon for that.
This is nice. See, this is a wealth of knowledge.
Through Medicare,
Yeah.
The Admilog through Medicare, okay. Repatha, yes. Yes. Some inhalers, yes, but ooh, that inhaler situation, that's a sticky one, Inhalers are tough to kind of get your hands on, as we know. Okay, so I have Jardiance, Lantus, Bydureon, Rybelsus. We have, Trulicity. Restasis. Armour and Synthroid. And it's a lot easier to get those.
Take off like $7.
Just telling you. Annuity, Prozac, the brand name, Strattera, I think we said that. And then I think we said Entresto, Remicade, Stelara, Humira. So those are some fun ones. All right. Who needs or uses patients assistance programs? Patients with high deductible plans, and they don't. How many times have you had to explain to your patient that this month they tacked on $450 because you have to meet your deductible, and next month, if you reach it, you will be able to spend the $47 on it. And I don't know how many times we have to do it, but it's really hard to understand.
187 times a day during the month of January.
The month of January, thank you. Thank you.
That's how.
Right, we don't talk about January. You prepare November. Sometimes even March, right? Until they actually reach the deductible. So that could be, if they are all on tier 1 or tier 2 medications, they may never get to it until they get that one expensive medication. And now they're wondering why it's $600 for the first month. And it's like, okay, we're going to start from the beginning. But we'll get there. We'll get there. Patients on fixed incomes. If you have your budget set, just because a doctor just told you needed a medication, it doesn't matter. If it's not $0, I can't shift my budget, right? Fixed income, you're not getting anything extra. Patients without insurance. Yes, you may have access to a doctor or urgent care. As we know, the emergency department can't turn you away in most places, if they shouldn't. But that doesn't mean just because a doctor wrote you a prescription, you can walk into a pharmacy and say, I need this medication. There are Good Samaritan clinics and things like that, which, great. I'm so glad we have those. But a commercial pharmacy, they can't do that. They have money to be made, right? So patients with no insurance. And then patients on multiple high-cost medications, and we've caught that before, right? Find a patient with 4 or 5 high-tier medications, and they're walking out the pharmacy like we just robbed the bank because we got all the money, right? But they're giving it.
Copay cards generally don't look like patients without insurance.
Without it, they do not. And that's where the foundations step in. That's no foundation. So specifically, copay assistance cards are going to attach with commercial insurance, right? But foundations and grants, they will actually bypass insurance, and you will either get it mailed directly to you or directly to the medical facility that you use. That makes sense? So if you're getting a biologic, it's going to go to the facility where you are getting your infusion. If you are getting a injectable, especially if it needs to be refrigerated, it's probably going to your doctor's office. If you're getting something in a pill form, they're probably sending it to your house. But that means your insurance is not being billed, means it's not going towards your initial phase, means that we can avoid a whole lot. But is it a process? Yes. We are not going to apply for a patient assistance program on a Monday and get an approval on a Tuesday. We got to have longevity here. All right, barriers. Literacy, as I mentioned, from our patient A. Just because you understand doesn't mean they understand, right? Access to a computer or internet. Think about in rural areas, or you can't afford a computer, or you're just not in the generation of computers. Can't assume that everybody can apply the same way. Embarrassment or shame. They know they need the medication, but they cannot afford it. Or they're embarrassed about the medication because I know in Georgia we have certain foundations that automatically attach through commercial pharmacies, but for HIV drugs, most patients do not want you to talk to them about that. Do not talk to me about it. I want you to give me my medication. I'll verify everything I need to verify. I want to walk out. Don't talk to me about the money or anything else. Does that make sense? I think we've all understood that. So being discreet is major. Discreet about every part of the process, because we care that they get the medication, but they need to understand that we will do it to protect their privacy, but also make sure they can get what is necessary and involve all parties, whether it be the insurance company, the doctor's office, and we are a care team, right? Okay. Misinformation. Some people a lot of doctors are writing prescriptions, maybe, they just don't know. Writing prescriptions where they don't know the cost of it, but they're handing the patient the prescription and they don't even know that there's a foundation or a copay assistant card attached to it, right? Right. Time. I don't have the time to do this. I don't have the time to fill this out. I don't have the time to drop this off to my doctor. I don't have the time or the mental space to do this. Things of that nature. Unaware of options. Doctor hands you a copay assistance card, but you're on Medicare and Medicaid, but you don't understand that there's a option for the foundations. So you just feel like they already told me no, I don't know what else, right? That's where we step in and say, no, you may not qualify for this, but you may qualify for that, right? Okay? Access to health care. Heavy sigh. We're working on that, right? Access to healthcare. Everybody doesn't have ways to get to where they are in their areas or access to pharmacy. I actually ran into a guy that I spoke to the other day, and he's like, the closest pharmacy is about 50 miles. So he needs to be able to get what he needs one time. There's no driving back and forth, right? Okay. And then access to phone services. Can't assume that everybody has a house phone. Can't assume that everybody has a cell phone. Okay. All right. The bright side. There is a bright side to this. It may be a long process. It may not work for everybody, but the bright side is that the medications could be low cost to no cost. So we could have the $5, the $10, the $25 copays for the high cost medications. That's always the dream. The dream is to get the patient what they need for what they can pay for it, right? No cost at all. The foundations or the grants, they're getting the medications to the patients at no cost and no insurance involved sometimes. Mail order services, where the patient doesn't even have to drive to go get the prescription. You mean to tell me it's free and I don't have to go pick it up? Yes, sign me up, right? And then medication adherence for better health outcomes. If we can have a plan for patients to get the medication where they can afford it, that means we're hitting our numbers, but in essence, for our care, they're taking the medication that they need. Life-changing sometimes. Sometimes these are life-changing. Insulin is life-changing. That is life-changing. Other things may not be, but there are things that are there's life-changing decisions that need to be made when they have to pay for these, right? Okay, there is a downfall. The eligibility requirements for some medications are very rigid. They are. I will say that, like Eliquis, with Eliquis, you have to spend 3%. Okay, try and do your math. Turn on your calculators either in your head or on your phone. So if you make $50,000 a year, you have to spend 3% of that before you even become eligible for the program. So that you'd have to come out of the pocket, if I'm not mistaken, a couple thousand before you're even eligible for the program. So in January, when you have a deductible, on top of having to reach that out of pocket, you're stuck between a rock and a hard place. Then it's a small window before you hit your gap, and then you're in a bigger situation, right? So it's kind of maybe a narrow window, but if we pay attention to what's necessary, we don't have to give false hopes. We can be honest at the beginning. This is what the knowledge that I have. This is what we can see what you're eligible for, and let's see what we can do to move forward to getting your medications, right? Inconsistencies with follow-up. It's really hard to keep following the patient on if they dropped this off, if they did this with the doctor, if they were able to get the medication, so that it is hard for us to do that. And then comfort and trust levels. Just because you tell a patient you can help them does not mean they want your help. Right, building patient-technician rapport. All right, we always know, baseline. We verify HIPAA information. Pick up, drop off, call in, anything. We're verifying HIPAA information. And use the patient's preferred name. If you'd be on, how many times has somebody walked up and you talk to them and say, hey, Mr. Smith? It's like, no, my name is Jack. Okay, no, I'm sorry. Okay. Now, every time you see him, you're going to call him Jack. You are not going to call him Mr. Smith, right? You have to get comfortable with your patients. Educate the patient on the patient assistance process. If you're honest up front, we don't have to, there's no way that there can be any confusion and we don't make any promises. I'm going to tell you what this process looks like. I'm going to tell you where I can help you. I'm going to tell you how we can move forward, right? Be proactive, be honest, manage expectations, and make no promises. Zero. We don't make promises. We're going to do what we can. I want this. You probably want it more than I do, but I want to help you as much as I can, right? Things to remember. Listen to the patient's needs. Offer assistance when applicable. Use clear communication, simple language. We can't always use high deductible. We can't always use even just patient assistance program. You have to make it simple. How can I help get this medication paid for so you can take it? Most people can understand that, and we can even break it out into more elementary, but we don't want to use our terms or our acronyms that we use every day, right? Explain the process from start to finish. If you're honest with the process from start to finish, there shouldn't be as much confusion. We can remind them, but at least we know, right? Give realistic turnaround times. If you submit a paper application via the mail, It's called snail mail for a reason. Please don't expect them to respond in 2 days. They probably haven't even gotten it, right? Right? And then as much as you can, follow up. As much as you can. We all know we have jobs. Our titles are different. I mean, I have learned there's so many more than what I even thought of. So many more technician roles out there. But if you can, follow up. And just knowing this knowledge, even if you don't work in a setting where you're helping patients, this could help a family member. This could help you later, just having this knowledge, right? Right. All right, any questions?
Yeah, what's the donut hole?
Are you serious? Yes, absolutely. Okay.
Because I don't know how to explain it to
You're right.
patients.
No, this is great. This is great. So if I give you, at the beginning of your plan, you get $5,000 to go towards your prescriptions, right?
Okay.
So say you get $5,000, right? You reach that $5,000 mark. Once you reach the $5,000 mark, you are now responsible to pay a higher percentage of the medication, okay? All right. So if the say again?
20%.
25.
It's 25, but it's the way they divide it out, the manufacturer has to pay a percentage and then you have to pay a percentage.
Right. Okay, yes. You probably don't need to, she's really smart. She got a lot of more interest. Don't confuse her. Basics here, Roxanne, basics.
I'm gonna explain to the clients
No.
what a donut hole is.
Nope, you're okay, we're getting there. So
Okay.
you've gotten to the end of your donut hole, right? You finish your $5,000, right?
Right.
You now are responsible for 25% of the cost of the entire drug. So if your Jardiance is $1,250, do the math for 25% of that. That's what they would be required to pay. If you can think of that, and it's hard to spit numbers out when people say, well, how much is it going to be after when I'm in the donut hole? You can't give exact numbers because it will even go down to the cent based off the 25%. Okay.
How long do you stay in that donut hole?
Okay, once you're in your donut hole, you get a certain percentage before you meet the catastrophic phase. You want to? Do you really want to go into that? We can. We might need to do this after. Huh? Yeah, it goes way back down in your catastrophic. Yes, way back down. So you are required to pay for 25% for quite a bit of time, and then if you do have to make it towards the end of the year into the catastrophic phase, it is a lot less. It's a lot less. Any other?
Medicare.
Yeah.
So you have to, it goes from 2,500. When you get into the donut hole, you go like 2,500 to 2,750, and then it goes up to the $5,000 mark. And then
Again.
the $5,000 mark, then you go into
The catastrophic phase. Did that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, well, you listen, the great thing about this, and I walked in and I was like, I bet you if I don't know the answer to a question, somebody else does, because we got 42, Roxanne, and when she introduced herself to me, thank God she went over my slides, y'all. She was the board member that went over my slides, but she was ready with so much information, and I love that we can like bounce feedback off of each other.
Something funny.
Yes.
When you were talking about signing people up for cards, so I'm pretty sure my Gmail account thinks I'm diabetic. Because I just use my.
Yep, use your email. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, if it's like 65 or older, because I get AARP stuff.
AARP, I have done that.
Whatever you have to do to help your patient.
You are, I mean,
Trying to say.
in the moment, where it's like, oh my God, I found one for you, and they're like, did you? I'm like, I had your basic information on the computer I have right here. You asked me for this. It's in my phone, and I tell them, I'll delete this right here, but you're about to walk away with a $5 copay. If you don't want me to do it, I won't.
And we live in a small town, so they're always like.
Always
you know,
willing,
but
for sure.
if you wanna read-
Oh, yeah. And I really do take it personal. I mean, now that I do it every day, and then working in retail for a really, really long time, I have a lot of relationships with a lot of the pharmacists, but our patients, they will come in and want to talk to me because we get stuff done, right? Yep. But thank you guys. Oh, go ahead.
One comment, when you're talking to a patient about that whole donut hole,
Mm-hmm.
people, when you say you have to pay 25% until you get to here, if you don't specify
Yep.
of the entire $1,200.
That's what I do.
Fraud.
But I usually start with that, like there is 25%, so let me explain. The total cost of your X, Y, and Z is
Because
this.
they think that it's 25% additional of what their
Copay is, right.
And they don't know how much the drugs are. They have
No, they have no idea. They have no
The
idea.
drug would cost them.
That one bottle would cost 17, 18, no idea. And 25% doesn't sound bad when you're used to your copay being $25. So I was like, oh, I can cover it, till you realize the actual price of the medication is several $1,000s.
And then I said, you get statements every month too, telling you where you're at in your gas. So you
Okay.
should
Right.
be able to open up their mail and see it, but they don't, so I'll say.
They don't,
well,
right.
You get a mail, you might check it out.
Did you look at your EOB and they're like, what's that? What's an EOB? We've all heard that.
They can call on the back of their insurance.
Yeah, they're PBM,
On the back of that, they can call the 800 number and they will tell them to the penny
to the penny where they are
where they are right now.
right now. That is very true.
That's what I always say, call them before you order your drugs.
That's true. And they may be, because they can run test claims. You can get things spit out before, like the patient who's 50 miles away. Just call before you go. Let's make sure everything is taken care of then. Again, thank you guys so much. Just from this concert, I'm going to become a member and I'm going to try and get on the board.